I was talking to a friend the other day. Guy's in his late 20s at a dead-end job. He was telling me how he couldn't wait to have a house in the Hamptons before age 40. I spent a few seconds wondering if he was just delusional, but I decided to play along and help him out. That sounds cool, I said. How do you plan on getting there? From his reaction, it was clear no one had ever asked him what his exact plan was before. He fumbled around a bit and said, I guess I don't really know. I just know I'm going to get there. This is exactly what you don't want. You want to make sure that every year you're setting aside the building blocks to get where you want to be. You want to make sure your goals align with your actions. Most people will tell you, I want to be a multimillionaire. And then they'll put their head down, blindly follow a career path that simply won't get them there, and look back 30 years later, wondering where it all went wrong. The day it went wrong was likely 30 years ago when they refused to calculate exactly how much money they needed to live out their dream. I'm actually not a fan of running the numbers in everyday life at all. I never track my daily or monthly spending. I never care if I'm overpaying for a small item like a dinner or vacation. But you really don't want to be the guy constantly worrying about money and cheaping out on events since you're afraid it'll screw up your hypothetical future net worth. At a certain point, though, you have to make sure you're steering the rudder in the right direction. Focusing on the macro, not the micro, is how you get rich. Most people wait until a major life checkpoint, turning 30, to reassess what's going on, which is incredibly stupid. At that point, it's nearly too late, right? You've already wasted a decade. Say you're like my friend and you want to buy a house in the Hamptons. A run-of-the-mill house is going to cost you probably around 3 mil at this point. If you're putting 30% down, that's $1 million down payment. In order to have $1 million down payment, you need to make what, $1.7 million pre-tax. Now, do you see what I'm getting at? The next step is to calculate how many years of savings at your current job gets you to that point. If you're saving 25K a year, you have a ways to go. Even if you're saving 200K a year, you have a ways to go, right? 9 years, assuming all the savings go towards the down payment, which is unrealistic. Obviously, you'll have some investment returns, but still. I know these calculations seem obvious, but in reality, almost no one does it. Now let's layer back one step. Is this Hamptons house going to be your first house? Probably not, right? It'll probably be your vacation house. So that means you have to buy a main house too. That's another 300K plus you need to sock away. Now, what about stocking away cash for other investments, retirement, and so on and so forth? By the time all these items are accounted for, you probably need to earn $5 to $10 million before age 40 to effectively make that purchase. So you better get on your horse. The main purpose of this video is to make sure that your actions align with your goals. If your goal is only to make 100K a year and you're on pace to achieve that goal, that's fine, right? You're achieving your goals, you'll end up happy. But if your goal is to live in the Hamptons in a mansion by age 40, and at your current trajectory, you're not even going to clear 300K a year at age 30, you're lying to yourself, right? You need to start making drastic changes. This may sound harsh, but it's the truth. Here's the strategy I follow, which allows me to run the numbers at a high level, right? Making sure that I'm on track to hit my macro financial goals, but also ensures that I can live my day-to-day life without ever running the numbers on small purchases. First thing is keep all recurring expenses relatively low, especially when you're young. And I would say anyone below 30, you don't need to rent the nice apartment. First off, no one cares. And second off, your quality of life is pretty much exactly the same, especially if you're in a profession where you're working a lot and are rarely home, which is most high earners. This doesn't mean that you live in poverty, right? It could be as simple as living with roommates and choosing the smallest bedroom out of the house to pay X amount less in rent, 25%, whatever you want to call it. 2, don't cheap out on any experience-related activities. That means if you're on vacation or at a bar or anywhere with friends, you don't even look at the price tag. 3, dollar cost average a set amount of your post-tax salary every month into the S&P. Say at least 10% of your post-tax salary. I don't really do this as much. I dollar cost average mainly into businesses actually. But I would probably split it between the S&P and Bitcoin if you're higher tolerance. 4, take your entire bonus and make one large asset investment every year. Your options are either a private company, starting up your own company, or a real estate deal. If you have additional money to invest, you can certainly make more than one large asset investment a year, but under no circumstances do you dip below 1. And then 5, take the rest of your free time, that's the time that people usually spend watching TV or doing nothing, and put it into starting a business. At the end of 10 years, you'll own a significant chunk of an S&P index fund, right? 10 assets. It's probably going to be a lot of real estate there, and hopefully a business, all while still keeping elements of a normal life, right? You won't be able to party every single weekend, but you'll still have more fun than most. It's really not possible to be poor following the strategy unless you over-lever like an idiot. And it ensures kind of several things. It ensures you maximize your happiness by spending freely on all fun-related experiences. It ensures that you gain equity ownership of at least one asset a year. It also ensures that you can spend most of your year having fun. right? Unlike most people's retirement models, which usually involve kind of constant rise and grind, simply kind of DCA on autopilot each month, zero rise and grind kind of associated with that. And you buy one asset a year. That basically means you're really grinding 2 to 4 months a year to find that asset. And the rest of the year, you're kind of in cruise control, right? It doesn't mean you're doing nothing, but you're kind of cruising a little bit. Obviously, if you end up starting a business and taking that last step, you'll need to hustle more. It also ensures that your savings are relatively illiquid. This sounds like a bad thing, but it's not, right? An easy way to screw up is by constantly fiddling around and pulling capital out of your investments when a downturn hits. Illiquid investments actually make it really difficult to do that. Lastly, it ensures you're adequately diversified, right? You have equities, you have private assets, you have not only do you have private assets, you have 10 of them, right? So you have maybe you have real estate deals, you have private businesses, you have a business you started, whatever it is. Basically, you want to make sure that your actions align with your goals. If you aspire to be wealthy and are nowhere near achieving that goal, you have to be honest with yourself. And you need to kick into high gear and realign your actions to your goals. While you don't have to use my strategy, I really believe it's the best way to do this while still maintaining a normal life for 2/3 of the year. Personally, I believe the best way to do this is through real estate because the deals are actually very easy to manage while still at a job. If you would like to do this through real estate, I'm sure you've heard about the acquisitions bootcamp I run. It has, I don't even know how many testimonials and case studies at this point. Take a look at them here. You can apply for that below if you really want to get started and make serious money in real estate.